I don't know whether or not most people who rely upon traditional media are going to get a full picture of what a mess this country is in until there's a Labour government. I was thinking about it with regard, dare I say, to a couple of colleagues here at LBC who have, over the last few years, encouraged you to vote for Brexit, to vote for Boris Johnson. Some of them remain warm even towards Liz Truss. And I thought about that in the context of the broader media landscape, where, of course, such attitudes are almost de rigueur. They're almost requirements to work for the Daily Mail or the Daily Express or the Daily Telegraph or the Sun, and up to a certain point the Times, but not as completely as those other organs. And all of these outlets have essentially shilled for the Tories since 2010. They told you austerity would be a good idea. They told you George Osborne was a genius. They told you Boris Johnson was a man more sinned against than sinning. They told you Brexit would make you richer. They told you warnings about food or pharmaceutical supplies were just part of Project Fear. They're telling you now that Liz Truss wasn't responsible for your mortgage going up. Well, some of them are. So how are you ever going to get a clear picture of the state of the nation when the people responsible for installing the people in power for a decade and a half are also in charge of the flow of information? When Rishi Sunak was a Goldman Sachs analyst, he would rely on Goldman Sachs research to decide where to place his bets, for want of a better word. He would rely on Goldman Sachs research, so in-house, self-propelled Goldman Sachs research by Goldman Sachs analysts, of which he was one, to make his decisions about where to move money and financial planning, as it were, and profit making. He would rely on precisely that sort of research. And the latest research out of that merchant bank says that Brexit has hit our GDP by 5%, not 5% of GDP. And he has to completely ignore it. So Rishi Sunak is a man who has to completely ignore the kind of research and detail that his entire career as a financier would once have been built on. That's a moment of madness that doesn't get properly reflected because the flow of information to the public is largely in the control of the people that are still telling you that Rishi Sunak is a stand-up guy, that Liz Truss would be a good Prime Minister, that Boris Johnson was trustworthy and honourable, that austerity was necessary, that the bankers weren't responsible for the financial crash of 2008. Rather, it was the proliferation of Sure Start schemes, or, to paraphrase Alexei Sayle, the fact that there were too many libraries in Wolverhampton. You will not know just how bad this country has been treated, just how damaged we have become, until Labour are in power and all the right-wing client media can start describing it accurately, because they'll be able to either implicitly or explicitly pretend that it's all the fault of the Labour government.